After a decade of lobbying, both in Ireland and at the United Nations and the Council of Europe, to get this referendum, we're today launching the campaign to remove the law. And we're asking people to vote yes for 5 reasons. One is we're asking people to vote yes to support the right to freedom of religion or belief, the right to freedom of speech, and the separation of church and state. And the Irish blasphemy law infringes all of these principles. We're asking people to vote yes to enable the media to deal objectively with religious issues, rather than having to self-censor themselves to avoid the possibility of getting involved in a blasphemy case with a potential €25,000 fine. We're asking people to vote yes to support Christians and Ahmadi Muslims and atheists who are persecuted in Islamic states for blasphemy. And those states at the United Nations like to point to the Irish blasphemy law as an example of a Western state that has passed a new blasphemy law in the 21st century and exposed the West for hypocrisy. We're asking people to vote yes to remind ourselves and to show the world that Ireland is now a modern democracy, that we have moved beyond 1937 and we are a state that respects both the right to freedom of belief and the right to freedom of speech. And we're asking people to vote yes to agree with all of the bodies that since 1991 have examined the Irish Constitution and have without exception recommended that the blasphemy law be removed from the Constitution. That's from the Law Reform Commission in 1991, the Constitution Review Group in 1996, the All-Party Dáil Committee on the Constitution in 2008, the United Nations Human Rights Committee, the Council of Europe, the recent Constitutional Convention. Every time any group of responsible people have reviewed the Irish Constitution, they have without exception recommended that the blasphemy law be removed. I'm going to say something briefly about the national and international impact. In terms of the national impact, while the law has not been formally enforced, the media are self-censoring themselves because they don't want to get involved in blasphemy cases. Now that's fair enough. They're running media outlets. They're not there to challenge the law. They're there to run their businesses. But it does mean that they can't deal objectively with controversial religious issues. So how do we find the best balance for the media and the law? Well, there's a group called the Venice Commission, which is the Council of Europe's body that advises governments on constitutional issues. They have advised that the purpose of any restriction on freedom of expression must be to protect individuals rather than to protect belief systems from criticism. It said people must be able to criticize religious ideas as long as they do not advocate hatred against individuals or groups. And that's an argument that we make as well, that we should protect people from harm, but we should not protect beliefs from criticism. And that report said that democratic societies must not become hostage to the excessive sensitivities of certain individuals. Instead, the level of tolerance of those individuals and of anybody who would feel offended by the legitimate exercise of freedom of speech should be raised. In terms of the international impact, in today's world, our laws affect people beyond our shores. And today, we have a letter published by 24 victims of blasphemy laws internationally, asking us to remove our constitutional ban to protect them and to support them internationally. We have pictures here of some of the people who have signed that letter. One person in particular who hasn't signed the letter because she is in prison in Pakistan is Asia Bibi. She's a Christian woman who is facing execution at the moment in Pakistan for alleged blasphemy. 2 politicians spoke out in her favour. 2 Pakistani politicians. They were both murdered for speaking out for Asia Bibi. One was the governor of Punjab, who was a Muslim. The other was the minorities minister in the government, who was a Christian. Both of them were murdered. And Professor Heiner Bielefeld, who's the UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion and Belief, has also told us that the big danger of the Irish law is the international impact, and that states with repressive laws like to point to the Irish law as an example of Western hypocrisy. I'll now ask Jane Donnelly to say a few words about when the UN Human Rights Committee was questioning Pakistan on their human rights record.
A couple of years ago, Atheist Ireland the Evangelical Alliance of Ireland and the Ahmadi Muslim community in Galway. We made a written submission to the United Nations Human Rights Committee under the International Covenant on Political Rights. Pakistan was appearing before the UN, so we sent a delegation over to Geneva to speak on behalf of Christians, Muslims and atheists, all in Pakistan, who could not go there and defend themselves against blasphemy laws in Pakistan. We spoke before the UN Human Rights Committee about the discrimination, the persecution of all our different communities in Pakistan, and the UN Human Rights Committee has recommended to Pakistan that they remove their blasphemy laws. We will continue to support Muslims, Christians and atheists in Pakistan, and to fight that this persecution ends for them. And we have people like Asia Bibi, a Christian woman, is languishing in jail in Pakistan, and we spoke about her when we were at the UN. We are 3 communities in Ireland with very different worldviews, but we are working together to get rid of this blasphemy law, and so it is very, very important that we send this message of support to the people that are persecuted in some countries, and particularly in Pakistan as well, about blasphemy. We need to get rid of that in our constitution. We need to support them by doing this, and to send a message out that blasphemy laws must go, and the persecution of minorities in places like Pakistan must end.
So we're now going to ask Professor David Nash, who is an international expert on blasphemy laws from Oxford Brookes University in England, and who has helped to remove the blasphemy law in England, and who has written several books on blasphemy laws internationally, to talk about the impact internationally and the historical impact of the Irish blasphemy law.
One thing that's very important in the years I've spent studying blasphemy and its history is that it is an offence that belongs very, very firmly in the past. It's one that belongs to countries that believe they should be controlling their populations, should be regulating what they think, what they say, and what they publish. And most experts, legal experts, historical experts, all believe that blasphemy laws have got no place in modern societies where each and every individual has rights of free speech, rights of free expression, and rights to worship or not worship in the way that they choose. Ireland's law is not one from the past. It's one that was put together 10 years ago. If you go to most other European countries, the laws are being repealed or gradually removed, or they're just waiting to be removed. And certainly this happened in Denmark last year. The problem with Ireland is it's a brand new law, and as such it becomes a precedent for countries throughout the world. That's why it needs to be removed, because it does not fulfill the requirements and needs of most international legal bodies. And you've heard Michael say a long list of international experts and international legal bodies that believe blasphemy laws in themselves are evil and potentially dangerous to freedoms of speech, of expression for everyone in every country. So years of studying and advising governments about this has done nothing than convince me even more that the very nature of blasphemy laws belongs to the past and not to the present, and certainly not to the future.
Finally, I'll ask Ashling O'Brien to say a few words about the Irish blasphemy law in the context of Ireland becoming a more progressive nation, and in the context of recent referendums that have been held.
It's brilliant to see so many people out here today. And if we're talking about this referendum and this campaign for this referendum, this is it. You are the campaign. We don't have a huge pot of money. We've gotten very used to referendum that involve t-shirts and badges and bumper stickers. We don't have that. So if we're going to get our message out there, we're going to rely on ye and word of mouth. So we have a number of things that we're running at the moment. The first thing I'd do is I'd ask you all to become as informed as you can on what the issues are. So please check out our website, blasphemy.ie. You will find all the information you need there. If you have any questions and you can't find the answer, drop us an email, you'll find the email address. If you are using social media, I'd ask you to go onto Facebook. Again, it's blasphemy.ie. Please like the page and invite your friends and share the information from the page. The same on Twitter, blasphemy.ie. We're using the hashtag BlasphemyRef to get that trending and get people informed. We've had a number of information tables yesterday across the country, and the message coming back is that people are beginning to realise there's going to be a referendum, but when we talk to them about blasphemy, one of the first questions they ask is, what is blasphemy? So we're starting from a really, really low bar here. We've got to get people informed, because if we don't, there will be apathy. And we know when people aren't engaged with a topic, they either won't vote or they'll spoil their vote. And we could end up losing this referendum because of that. So please, get informed. If you want to get out there and campaign with us, join us at one of our tables. If you're in an area and there's no table, we will set you up. We will give you everything you need. We've got 4 weeks. We've a lot of work to do. We've a lot of people to inform on the issues. So please do get involved.
And hopefully in a month's time, we'll have got rid of this anachronistic and dangerous and silly law, and we'll be able to stand in solidarity with the victims of blasphemy laws internationally, who have asked us today to convey to the Irish people their request that we support them.